Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial, and today we're going to learn about DOM manipulation. So we're going to see how we can use JavaScript to dictate some events on a page. So right away, to get us started, let's create a basic page where we're going to see how to create a simple to-do list. Okay, so going to have a to-do list whereby we can create new tasks, and then we can also delete those tasks using a JavaScript DOM manipulation. So I can create the title of the page and call it to-do list. Okay, so on my left I have my VS Code, as you can see, and on my right I have the browser whereby we're going to see the results of whatever that we are creating from the page. Okay, so to get us started, let's right away start creating our header. So we'll have our header where we can call it to-do list. Okay, so you can see here on the right side it has popped up, and then from there we can create our input tag where we're going to have our input. So let's say the user wants to have the input there, input text. Then going to give it a placeholder. Okay, so placeholder there, and say enter your task here. Enter your task here. Okay. Okay, and then below it, we're going to have a button. So it's going to be a button that we're going to use to have our button for adding task. So you can say add task. Okay, so I've given them some styling so that they can appear nice. So you can call this add task. Okay, and then just before we get done with the button, we will have another let me create the list that will be holding our tasks. Once we add them, we'll be having lists, a list of items that we are adding to our to-do list. So they're going to be an ordered a list. So we'll have an ordered list there where we'll dynamically add the tasks. Once I click the add button, we will add we'll have a list displaying here of added items. Okay, so when we are using JavaScript to manipulate our page, we must target these elements which we want to use. So one common way of targeting elements is by using what we call IDs. Okay, so going to use IDs to target sorry, going to use IDs to target our elements. So let me give these elements IDs. So the input element, I could give it an ID of input task. You can say input task. And then going to have our button, which will also have an ID. Okay, we can change it to anything else. So you can say giving it an ID of add task. Okay, so you can have a ID and a class that has the same name. So you can say add task. We're going to target the button by using the ID of add task. We're going to see how. And then going to have our an ordered list. Can call it task list. Okay, can call it task list that way. So let me use this format of hyphens. Yes, so we have input task that is going to target our input element. We're going to have add task. We're going to have ID add task for adding the task, and then going to have a task list. The list is going to be appended inside this unordered list. Okay, so already have some styles which have which I have written them here. So these are the styles that are at least styling our page. Okay, and then we have linked them on the head here. So I believe you know how to link HTML and CSS. And then below here at the end of the page, just before we close the body, we have linked our JavaScript here. This is the one that is going to manipulate our page to create and delete tasks from our task list menu here. So I believe that's clear up to that point, so we can continue swiftly. Okay, now the first thing, going to have our JavaScript here. Okay, so we can test, see whether the script is well connected. So we can say hello from console. So you can come on this page here, open its DevTools, right click and then inspect. So going to see its console here. So you can see here hello from console. So our script is well connected. So the first thing, we want to create variables that are going to target these three elements. We want to target the input element, the button element, and the UL element. So how do we do that? We target them by their IDs. So you have input task, input hyphen task element, our ID. So going to create variable, we can call it task input, task input. So going to target it by getting it from the document object and then target it by ID. So the ID is go back and confirm input hyphen task. So you have input hyphen task. So you'll use this variable to target the element. Then you can create another variable. The next one is the button. Okay, so you can say you want the add button. Just going to have a document, then get element by ID. So add button has which class? It has add task. Okay, so it has add task. Then going to target the list now where we're going to have our items. So we're going to have our task list. Then going to target it from the document, then get it by ID. And then what was the ID? The ID was task list. It's going to have a task list. Alright, so we have our elements and we have given them variables. We have targeted them by ID and we have task input, add button, and the task list. Okay, so we want to have now what we call an event listener. An event listener is the one that once we click it, the button, something is going to happen. Okay, so we want to target our button, which is add button, then attach it to an event, in this case an event listener. So event listeners always take in two parameters. So the first one is the event, the type of event. In this case it's the click event. And the second one is the function that is going to be triggered once we click the button. So let's create a function that says add task. So you want to run a function known as add task whenever we click the button of add task. Okay, so let's create that function right away. So let's create that function add task like that. It takes no parameter, but it's going to have something. So we can just check whether our event listener works. Okay, so clicked, button clicked. So I want to click the button while the console is open. Okay, so I can inspect like that, maximize for now. Okay, so I want my console open. So if I click the button, you can say the advent listener is triggered here, and it has said button clicked. Okay, so we can confirm that our function is working. Now, before we add anything to this input bar, we want to check something. Okay, we want to check what the user has inputted and have that value. So let's have a variable that holds that content. So you can say task text. So this is the text that is going to be inside here. Okay, so from where are we getting it? We're getting it from the task input. So it's the task input and then dot value. So we want to get the value that is in the task input and call it. This is the task text. Okay. So we want to give it a condition now. Assuming that there is nothing inside here and I want to submit an empty task, I want to give it an alert that says, please enter task. Okay. Please enter task. So I'm coming here and saying if the task text is empty, okay, I want to give it an alert that says please enter task first. Please enter task first. Okay, so if that's the case, then we return back to the empty taskbar. So if I dare submit an empty task, you see that said please enter task first. So we're good to go. Now next we want to see whether what will happen if I create a new task here and I create add task. So I expect to have, okay, right now I say shop. Okay, so I want to do shopping. So if I clicked shop there, it should pop up down here. The first activity is a shop. Okay, so now to do that, we come here and create that list element that will be appended inside the UL. Okay, so now we come here and create our list item that's called li. So we can create an li there. Okay, and then target our document. Then we go to use what we call now create element. So now we're not using a get element already, but now we want to create an element. So which element we want to create? We want to create an li element. Okay, so we have created an li element. So once we have our li element, we have to add some content inside it. So you can say task content. Okay, task content. So this task content, we're going to append it to our document here. Okay, then we're going to create what we call a text node. So text node is whatever is going to be put inside the element that we have already created. So you create an element and then you add a text content or a text node inside it. Create an element and then create a text node inside it. So which text node do we want to create? The one that we just created here, which is this task text. Okay, so we want to add the task text, whatever text that the user had input inside there, that's the one we want to put into our task content. Okay, so how do we have it now inside our list? So we want to append the task content inside the list. Okay, so we want to have our list here. Then we're going to use a method known as append child. Then you want to append what? Want to append the task content right away. So now we have our list that has whatever the user had put inside here. It's inside a list. Okay, so this list must also be added where? The list must be added not to the task list itself, because remember we have our list here ul, which is having a class of task list. Okay, so you want to append it now to the task list. Okay, in fact this one should be an ID. I targeted my task using the wrong element, so this should be an ID. Yes, we're targeting it by ID. We have ID task list. Yes. So we want to target the task list. So we call it task list. Okay. So I want to append what? Append child. The child we want to append. We want to append the list that we just created. Okay. So we're putting that list inside the list of task list. Are we up to that point? Yes. So if we test our code, going to see that going to create a shop there. Then we click add. Now you see we have our shop there. Okay, but now you see that the input bar is not getting erased to an empty one, so that I can say exercise as another activity that I want to do. Exercise. Okay, so if I add it that way, it will still remain there. So I want to make it in a way that once I add my task, I want to clear everything from the task input. Okay, so we'll have our task input. So once we have added it, we want to have our task input, and then want its value back to an empty array. Remember here we have our task input value as the task text, and then now once we have added whatever we wanted to add, now let's clear it. So if I click shop, now see it's back to empty. I say exercise, it's back to empty again. Okay, so you've seen how we can add a task dynamically. Okay, so I can say code and I add it there. So what if I'm now done shopping and I want to do away with the shopping? So I want to add a delete button that is going to help us to delete the task. So right away, let's create our delete button dynamically. So we'll have delete btn. Then we have our document dot create element. So we want to create which element? We want to create a button. Okay, so want to create once we create the button, we want to give that button something, so that button should have a text content that is saying something. Okay, so the button should be written inside it delete. Okay, should have delete inside it. Once it has delete, we want to append it to the list. Okay, so at the end of every item, we want to have that button of delete. Okay, so you append it to the list, then append child. Okay, append child. Okay, so once we have our list that is appending child, so we want to append it to what? Want to append the delete button to our list. That way. Okay. Okay. So now let's see whether once we create our item, button is also added there. So if I do exercise, add it, it has a delete button that I can click and delete it. So right now, once I delete it, it cannot be deleted since I have not added the functionality of deleting. So that's what I want us to create right away. So let's create that function. So we can say, no, in fact, it doesn't need a function, just an event listener. So once I click that delete button, okay, I want to add an event listener to it, which is listening to a click event. And then I'll have my function now appended inside there, anonymous function. So once I have my function there, once I click the function, I want to delete something. Okay, so I want to delete the task from the task list. So I want to have my task list there, and then remove its child, because remember the task list is the one that has a list of items that I want to do. Okay, remove which child? Remove one of that li child from the list. So let's create a new to-do list. Go to the gym. Okay, it's added there. Say go for shopping. Add it there. The last one, say make dinner or make lunch. Make lunch there. I've added it. So you want to delete it. I click the delete button. I've deleted the item that is in the item list by triggering this event listener here. So if I delete this, I have a blank list. So that's how we can use JavaScript to trigger events on our page and make things happen. So far we've seen how to create an element by using create element method, created a list and appended it to this UL here. Okay, what we did here, append it to the list, and then see how to use a delete button to delete anything that we have from our child element. So I believe you got some value from the video. See you in the next one on how to use DOM manipulation.